What is up, guys? We are back to do some more work on the Dakota, and today we're finally going to be putting the engine back into the engine bay where it belongs. I bought a set of ARP flywheel bolts for a Fox body Mustang. There's the part number and the dimensions on them right there. So that's what I'm going to be using. It was like $13 or something for the set of quality ARP hardware. Also, I put a throttle body spacer on here, so now I do have the V8 throttle body on here, and the linkage clears the fuel rail here, so that's all taken care of. I do have to cut a hole into the floor, obviously, because automatic, there was no hole in the floor, so I gotta go in here and peel all of the carpet back and start cutting once the transmission is in there. My goal basically is just to get the engine and transmission in and have the hole for the shifter cut and the interior put back together by the end of the day. If that is done, I will be happy and we'll be all set. First thing I need to do is to get the engine off of the stand and get the pilot bearing in it, and then get the new throwout bearing on the transmission and get that shifter off and out of the way, and we'll start torquing the flywheel and clutch on and getting all that stuff situated, and then we'll shove this onto the back of this, and then we'll start putting it into the truck. So I was gonna go ahead and quit talking and get started on this. Alright, I got the hoist hooked up to the engine. I ended up finding one hook. I think this came from the VR6 actually, because it was metric and I had to drill the hole out a little bit bigger for this bolt to fit, but I got this thing bolted onto here, so I'm hooked up here, and then I got the hook right here. It should be a lot better than having only the front of the engine hooked up. There we go. Wow, that's sitting really nice and flat too. That's almost perfect. So once the transmission's on there, it's going to tip back just the right amount. I'm pretty happy with that. It's a good position to be able to clean the inside of the crank out and everything too. And the whole thing decided to spin around too. Alright, cool. I guess it's fine. I'm going to have to fight with that when I'm putting it back in for sure, but it'll be okay for now. It's not that bad in there, honestly. I'm going to clean it up a little bit, or at least the best that I can. I get this thing hammered into there, and then we'll get the flywheel and the clutch on. Alright, I was able to get the right pilot bearing for the truck. Now, I actually had the correct bearing, and it came with, the one that came with the clutch set was the right one. The issue is that it was missing a sleeve that goes into this portion of the crank. FC69907, that's the part number for the bearing that comes with the sleeve. So if you're putting an automatic engine into a 5-speed truck or doing a swap or something like I am, that is the one that you're going to need, because you have to have that sleeve, and as far as I can tell, you can't buy the sleeve separate. So I got the bearing right here in the freezer. Get it a little bit cold so it'll shrink, and then I had the back of the engine sitting in front of the heater. I'm going to go ahead and knock it in real quick while it's still cold. I'm not going to set the camera up, just let this thing will just slip right in. I won't have to use any lubricant or anything on it. It'll just pop right in. Bearing going to go in, and then we'll go ahead and get the flywheel, clutch, and everything put back in like I wanted to last night. And then we'll be mating the transmission and the engine up. Alright, I've never had a flywheel that was that hard to get on. And it wasn't that it was that difficult, but just with the engine wanting to move and how tight it was and everything, what I ended up doing was getting it sitting on there good enough that I could get one bolt in, and then I just used 2 alternating bolts and tightened them in with just that ratchet right there, just to get the thing to sit nice. So the Luck flywheels, I mean, they sit really nice and tight, so that's probably a good thing, because it means it'll center itself very well. There won't be a bunch of wobbliness going on. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull both those bolts out. We will apply the 242 Loctite and the ARP lubricant. We'll get them put in there, and we will begin torquing them, and then we'll go ahead and clean this surface up. We'll clean the surface of the pressure plate, and after that we will get that on as well. I think it'll be time for the transmission to go on. And one thing I've realized just now is that I don't have the bolts for the pressure plate either. Now those, I'm going to look it up. I think those I can get away with hardware store parts. Flywheel at least can't fall off and hit me anymore, right? We'll do the same to the rest of them. Yeah, this stuff is like extremely runny. So it did bolt up. This is a V8 flywheel, and it did bolt up with no trouble whatsoever. We'll go ahead and get the torque wrench set. 80 then. So that's taken care of. I'll go ahead and wipe some of that crud off of there, and then when I come back with bolts, I'll go ahead and spray this thing down. I'm not going to bother cleaning it right now, but flywheel is on. So like I said, I got to figure out what to do for the pressure plate bolts, because I don't have anything at all. I'm going to have to find out what thread this is, and then go ahead and get my hands on some. Maybe I'll get lucky in a part store will have them, but I kind of doubt it. So I'll go figure that situation out, and I'll let you guys know what I'm doing as far as the flywheel bolts goes. And we'll get them in here and finally have this thing ready to go back into the truck. Got the clutch here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this thing in. I am putting a little bit of the 242 on these and then torquing them to 30 foot-pounds. Hey, I got it torqued down, so... I'm going to go ahead and just double check these real quick. It's finally time to put the transmission on. Okay, so once I get some gloves on, you guys will get to enjoy watching me struggle to stick this transmission onto this engine. It should be at least funny, because I'm not a very strong person, and I'm doing this by myself. It's supposed to pick it up from, and I guess we will just go for it, huh? The input shaft is into the clutch, I think, but it hasn't gone into the splines yet. That's where I'm stuck, I'm pretty sure. Oh, hey, there you go. That wasn't as bad as I thought. Probably shouldn't speak too soon here, but go up a lot more. The whole engine is kind of tilted one way. Okay, really? That's annoying. Ooh. Alright. This is the part I was really dreading, so now that these two are together, my skinny ass managed to do it by myself. I'm feeling pretty good about the rest of this. I'm gonna wait for this moment for a long time. It's officially happened. The truck is not fully 5-speed converted yet, but there's a 5-speed transmission bolted to the engine, so that's exciting. Well, transmission's on it. I'm going to move things around so I can get some good leverage and really tighten stuff up. I gotta stick the bolts for the motor mounts in so I can slide them into place. There really isn't anything else to do, so other than just stick the thing in there. Ooh, I got one. I got the driver's side mount to go in. The engine is back in. The only issue I see is that oil drain right there is touching that, so I'm gonna have to figure something out. The angle from the pan is pretty good. It's just that bit of it right there, which I might be able to take it and rotate it too. I don't know. I can try that. It is time to put the transmission mount and transmission crossmember in, bolt those on so that everything is sitting where it's supposed to be, and it'll be time to put a hole in the floor, and then later after all that I'm going to do the drive shaft, and then we'll start putting the front of the truck together and just kind of see how far we can get with it today. I will get back with you guys and let you see how it looks. Alright, I got a hole cut in the floor, and if you'll notice on the floor there's a lot of rust, and it's only on this top side of the floor, so it's from moisture getting on the carpet. So this carpet I'm probably just going to rip out. I'm going to finally put the Sebring seats I have in here and throw these seats away, as well as the carpet, and just be done with that. But if you look down there, you can see that blue that's down there is just a towel covering the top of the transmission because there's no shifter on it. And then I've traced out a little square, which is basically the shape of the shifter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole just with a regular drill bit in each corner, probably about 5/16, 3/8 inch size hole, and then I'll just be able to cut around just straight cuts, and then this piece of metal will just drop out, And hopefully from there I can get the shifter assembly to fit through the hole and be able to bolt it to the transmission. And then if I have to do any more clearancing, I won't have to worry about dirt getting into the transmission and stuff. I'm going to finish cutting stuff in here, and then we'll just see what I decide to do next. I have all of the engine mounts, transmission mounts, all of that stuff is in, the cross members in. Everything is taken care of as far as mounts go. I also went ahead and bolted the wastegate back on. Drain line I had to just completely disconnect. I ordered a 60-degree fitting to go to the bottom of that turbo, so that'll be here soon. This thing's not going to be running before that thing gets here anyway, or not ready to run. And then inside, this is where the exciting stuff is. So there is a great big hole in my floor, and there's a shift knob sitting up here. And I know you guys can't see much very well right now, but this thing's sitting right where I wanted it to. It clears the dashboard very well, and it clears the seats pretty well. I can come in here and play with it and stuff, which I've honestly been doing for probably a whole minute, just messing around with it, because it's just cool to see it in here. Looks like it's meant to be in here, which I mean, I guess technically it was. There's still a big ugly hole in the floor that you guys cannot see right now, just because I don't have a light in here, so you can't really tell. There's no trim panels. I'm going to go in and clean up the hole. It's pretty ugly, it's pretty nasty, it needs a lot of cleaning up done, but the transmission fits through it. I'm going to trim the back of it a little bit more and then just smooth it out, make it look a lot nicer, and then I'll get the shift boot on. I've decided this carpet I'm just going to throw away because it's freaking nasty. To get the carpet out of here, I have to remove the seats, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the seats and then put the Chrysler Sebring seats, which are the same as an Eclipse seat. They bolt in the same. I had them in my Eclipse. I'm going to put those seats in here because they're in perfect condition and they're a lot more comfortable also. That looks awesome in there, having the shift knob and everything. This thing's finally, it's not officially 5-speed swapped. It's got a Bluetooth drive shaft and no clutch or slave in it at the moment, but it has the transmission in it. There's a hole in the floor. There's a shifter sticking through the floor. For now, I'm going to go run a couple errands, take a couple things out, and then I'll come back and continue working on it. It's been a couple of days. I went and worked pretty much till I was about to fall asleep working on this thing, and I got stuck on one thing, which I'll go ahead and show you right now, which was the U-joint. As you can tell, I didn't replace the front one because the seals on it are still good and it feels very smooth. There's not any play in it or anything. And this one took me hours to get in and installed right. So if you look right here, you can tell I've been actually like shaving the end of this cap down. And then this U-joint here is not the one of the U-joints I bought from Rock Auto for the 03 Dakota drive shaft. I think they sent me U-joints for a front drive shaft because they were way too small. This is the ones, they sent me 2 of these for the rear drive shaft, and if you look at how much shorter that is. Thankfully I had a U-joint for the older Dakota, for that Dakota's actual drive shaft, which is sitting right here, that I had wanted to put in before I never did, and that one was the exact same size as the U-joints that were in this drive shaft, so I used the body of that one and 2 of the bearing caps from it, because these have to fit into these little, I don't know what you want to call them, things that bolt into the rear end, rather than having a one of these yoke things right here that bolts to the rear end. It just, the U-joint itself bolts to the rear end on the newer Dakotas. So I got that thing in there and swapped caps around. So there's 2 caps from these smaller U-joints on that U-joint that's in there, and then 2 caps that came with that U-joint. And then of course I had to use 2 of the clips that came with those U-joints down there to go into this drive shaft because it was the right diameter and everything, just way too small of a joint. And then of course you'll notice here I had to shave all this down. For some reason, I don't know if it was because of this U-joint being too wide or something, but I could not compress these far enough in order to get the clips in. So what I did, if you look on the face of this U-joint cap, is like this little circle here where it's dipped in. I shaved each cap down until I had completely shaved that dip off, and then stopped right there. These are still very nice and flat, and that was probably a mil, maybe 2 off of each cap, and that was the perfect amount to get these compressed in nice and tight. The U-joint doesn't wobble or anything, but it still spins very freely, and get the spring clips in there and locked into place. Finally got everything dialed right. We're gonna see if I get any vibration going on with this thing. With the way it's currently set up, I was very careful about how much I took off of each cap. They're still very nice and flat. They're the exact same size as each other. Of course, this U-joint's untouched as far as this. I got the little locking clips on the inside of the caps on these because That's what this one uses. Front end didn't need to be touched. This thing was the right length. It just came off of a different truck, so it couldn't just bolt right in. So that's ready to go into the truck. All I need to do is clean the end of that yoke up right there and clean out the inside of the tail shaft on the transmission. It's got like dirt and like a little bit of dirt and stuff in it, probably from us pulling it at the junkyard and dropping the back of the trans on the ground. So I got to clean that out, and then that thing will be ready to go in. And then other stuff I got done. Most of the front end of the truck is put back together. I got the intercooler and radiator and all of the stuff that I made put back in here and done. And so you guys have seen all this stuff. I got the fans on the back of it. And I put the starter on down there. All that's left to do on this thing at this point is all of the intercooler piping. And then there's heater core hoses and radiator hoses need put on it. And some vacuum hoses need to be redone, and then I need to mount the fluid reservoir for the clutch master, so I'm just going to get the self-tapper or something and bolt that in right there. We're very, very close to having this thing done and completed and everything dialed. Basically everything on this truck is brand new at this point, so it should drive really nice, hopefully. That's a little look into what to expect in the next video. Not a whole bunch of super exciting stuff, but we'll be getting basically everything dialed in except for the exhaust and the wiring in the next video. If you've enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe. If you haven't already, come back for the next video. Hopefully in a couple videos from now, we'll be giving this thing its first start. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.